I grew up next door to a haunted house. It was Amityville, The Exorcist, and Omen rolled into one. It wasn't just that it was next door either. It was the other half of our semi detached house. At night, I could feel the evil seep through the wall, and I would turn away from that wall, the wall that joined our two houses. Satan himself may well have lived in this house for all the terror it aroused in me as a youngster. This place of death, where the souls of the tormented could be seen in the branches of the trees in the back garden at night, and there were cats. And it wasn't just my overactive hammer horror imagination. Many others in our neighborhood were also convinced it was haunted. So, how did this house get this reputation? It wasn't exactly a gothic rundown mansion. This was a typical housing executive, 3 bedroom family home. The house got this reputation quite simply because the husband and wife who lived there had died. Nothing suspicious, nothing odd. They died, that's all. About 6 or 7 years apart, both from cancer. There was absolutely nothing untoward about it. They left 2 daughters with whom our family were very good friends, both teenagers. As the years passed, the daughters got on with their lives and were increasingly not at the house. One got married and the other went off to Belfast to university, coming home every fortnight or so. As a result, the garden with its bushes and trees became overgrown, and because it was mostly empty, the house was generally wrapped in darkness. But the cats were still there, and as we were good friends and neighbors, we agreed to feed the cats. Now, I don't dislike cats, they're okay in the house, they're okay in the daylight. They're not okay lurking in a dark shed of a practically abandoned house, shrouded in darkness, hidden behind a forest of foliage in the middle of winter. And it always seemed to fall to me to feed the cats. Go round to the back of the house where it was darker than dark, where there was no one but the spirits of the dead, maybe the souls in purgatory, waiting to pounce. Me carrying a tin of stinking kitty cat, often to be greeted on opening the shed door with a hiss from hell, or something brushing past my leg, or occasionally leaping in its own terror onto me. I once had a nightmare where I was inside the house next door, and there was a coffin beneath the sideboard. I remember this nightmare so clearly. And the coffin started to open, and there were cats all around. One evening, though, my neighbor was at home, and one of the cats was having kittens in a basket in the front room. I was there too, as was my mother, watching this little miracle of biology. And as I watched, mesmerized, my eye was drawn to my neighbor's bookshelf. And there was a book there that I had known existed, but never imagined ever seeing, a thing of myth, like a unicorn, The Joy of Sex. My sophisticated neighbor had a copy of The Joy of Sex, and I knew I had to get my hands on it. Now, long years passed, I reckon 2 or 3, which in teenage terms is a very long wait, but I was a master of delayed self gratification. I had bided my time, truth be told, I had little other choice. I couldn't ask to borrow the book, but all things come to he who waits. The neighbor eventually finished college and moved back home next door to me. And one weekend, she was going off on a holiday. The key to her front door was left with us. She was away. She wouldn't be coming back for a few days. Praise be. I would have to overcome years of fear and superstition, but the joy of sex was too strong an urge to resist. Satan and all his demons couldn't hold me back. One Saturday night, Mum was at bingo, Dad was out in the pub, no one else was in the house. The stars had aligned and my destiny was calling. I took the key to the neighbor's front door. I was petrified. I was about to let myself into this house, which had terrified me for much of my young life, and I wouldn't be able to turn on a light because this had to be done in darkness. But I had to get in there. It was fate. I needed to know the secrets contained in that fabled book, and if I was caught, I would have no explanation or excuse. There was a pathetic streetlight that lit my way up the path. I turned the key in the Chubb lock and went into the dark hallway. I knew the room I wanted was immediately to the right, and I didn't need light for that. The design was a perfect mirror image of our own house. I was wreathed in darkness. I didn't have a torch because batteries for torches cost money. I guided myself with my hands to where the bookshelf was, and with only the weakest of light from the faltering street light outside, I found my holy grail. I made my way to the window and perched there. Again, the weak street light was my friend, providing just enough light to let me see the pencil drawn illustrations. That icon of 70s sexuality, that guide to the delights of the body, a Western Kama Sutra, forbidden, enticing, mysterious, and in my hands. I still had plenty to be afraid of. What if someone had seen me go into the house? What if my parents arrived back wondering where I was? What if the neighbor arrived back early? What if the place is actually haunted? What if? What if? This house still terrified me, but no earthly or unearthly power could stop me from learning from the joy of sex. I was less interested in the words, needless to say. I flicked through various pages and positions and poses. I knew my time was limited. I knew I had to take as much in as possible and get out quietly and quickly. And soon enough, it was time to leave. So I put the book back. I slipped out and withdrew to my own house. Mission accomplished. No one any the wiser but me, and now you. I feel and felt quite pleased with myself. My fear of the house was overcome as a place of evil. This was just a house where my lovely neighbour lived, and I learned very quickly that there's more to love in the natural than there is to fear in the supernatural. And to my lovely neighbour, who still lives in that same house, if you ever hear about this, I'm sorry.